Hello, everyone. All right. So we'll start with an invocation of the soul building when the soul in us is fully achieved, which we call wholeness. It is the invocation of that wholeness. Supramental intelligence. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Atsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Achodayat. What it means is all the basis of all conscious beings. Let's invoke your energy to our intelligence and make it into supramental, wholesome intelligence, conflict-free intelligence. So this is the idea. Essentially, if you wonder about the word soul, alma, it's often used in two connotations. So one has to be very clear. There is the after death connotation, and then there is also the soul that we build while we are alive. What does that mean? It means essentially that we are exploring and embodying, successfully embodying an archetype. What is an archetype? Archetype, in the olden days, people used to think of God's virtues. God builds us in his own image, and that means that God imposes upon us his virtues. Nowadays, we don't put words like God in our vocabulary as much as we can. We avoid it. So we say consciousness, the wholeness, has different attributes. That's the way to reach that wholeness. And those attributes we call archetypes. What are they? We start with simple attributes that help our survival, such as abundance, power, abundance, power, beauty, love. Okay. Should I repeat all that what I said? All right. Okay. Count my time from now. All right. Okay. So the basic idea of the soul. The human being is born in with some universal software, but they are not all very conducive to soul building. They are negative. In other words, they came from our animal ancestry, and they are built in us, so we cannot avoid them until we become whole. Then they are finally vanquished. But they are there, negative emotions. 5 times more strong in the brain than positive emotion. But we do have positive emotion. At least more or less, at least 40% of us, maybe 50, um, have them. And this is what began humanity, the building of positive emotion. Positive emotion is how we bring the archetypes in our body. Be very clear about it. Why? Because negative emotions, everybody is familiar. Today, positive emotions, many people have just decided they're fictions, they don't happen, they're artificial, you just have to pretend it. And this is the culture that we live. We have to be extremely careful keeping our emotions alive in us. It is a pleasure to talk with you because many of you have Brazilian ancestry, and that's a wonderful thing only because Brazilians have somehow, the South itself, the whole South of the planet, has preserved this idea of having human beings having emotions as a fundamental aspect of being human. This is how we began. We were animals before, as you all know, and about 70,000 years ago, human beings, Homo sapiens, we are the only human race, there are several of them that were able to do this. We self-domesticated ourselves. Now, this is a word that we use because domesticated animals also have a soul. As you know very well, if you have a dog or a cat, they relate with you from a level which you can call soul. They can love you. So we did that ourselves. Then we could teach animals to do it too. And that happened roughly about 70,000 years ago. What did it consist of? It consisted of having an embodiment of the archetype of goodness to a minimal extent. We have, in a natural way, built in ourselves a defensiveness that comes from our immune system. Immune system's job is to defend us. When the immune system is functioning well, and we encounter somebody who is a stranger, then automatically we become defensive. We have to protect ourselves against somebody who is not me. And this produces a problem because if we anticipate any danger to our survival, immediately there are those negative emotional brain circuits, long animal ancestry, they are triggered and we become violent. Animals become violent like that, everybody knows that. But not everybody knows that before 70,000 years ago, we were like that too. This is why humans were very much like animals. In fact, they were animals. When self-domestication came about, we had embodied the archetype of goodness sufficiently so that we did not have that violent reaction of defensiveness. If we see somebody who we are familiar with, they're in our vicinity, they're part of our regular encounter. We are part of a group that we later on expanded version we call society. That's what began humanity, self-domestication. Not getting violent when we meet somebody that we relate regularly. Still, we are very reactive to strangers. We have not been fully human yet. And then long development for thousands of years, about maybe 12, maybe 15,000 years ago, many of us developed a embodiment of the archetype of goodness called altruism. Altruism, you know, is the word which is used for the tendency we have to help somebody in distress. So much so that if somebody is in distress to the extent that they are being attacked, we even endanger our own safety and fight with the attacker, even to that extent. And that's all altruism. Now, this part this part was never made into a full instinct. In other words, we never fully developed this capacity of altruism. About 40% of us is known to have altruistic brain circuit. About 40% of us is known not to have altruistic brain circuit. About 20% we don't know. They may have a little bit, but not strong enough to say that they are fully altruistic. Now, all of you here, don't doubt it. You would not be here if you were not an altruistic person. So that's good news. Bad news is that there are a lot of people who unfortunately never had this opportunity of developing altruism. So what happens in humanity then ever since, because we never completed the job, there is this altruistic part, people who are good fundamentally because they had embodied goodness, and then people who are not endowed with the idea of good, being good to others. They remain selfish to this day. So all this good-evil struggle that we see today is because some people are arrested in their soul development. We talk about IQ intelligence, we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about a lot of things today. Musical intelligence, relationship intelligence, all those intelligence are vague. Basic idea of basic intelligence that we need is what makes us human. And that is archetypal intelligence. There's no alternative to it. That is the soul. And this is why this subject of this morning was wonderful. Whoever gave this subject did a good job. Thank you. Awakening of the soul. This is the human journey. This is what everybody should be doing. So how do we do it? We have some things to talk about here. First of all, quantum physics is an essential aspect of our understanding of the new worldview today, that is integrating spirituality into science. We have to get into that. And then we have to get into the developmental history today. How does a child grow up today? We were all looking at the little girl and how soulful she was. I hope you noticed. It's a spontaneous soul that little kids have. And then how do we lose that? And when we become adults, especially in countries like North America and countries of Europe, we grow up in those cultures. Many people become intellectual. They forget about emotion. This is discouraged today. What is the problem forgetting emotions? Emotions are a strange phenomenon. Yes, brain eventually takes over the functions of the body, and therefore brain eventually builds emotional circuits. But the brain does not originate emotion. Brain only originates the few emotions that is connected with the brain organs. Emotions are a composite of feeling and thinking. This is the thing. Feeling. Where does feeling come from? We feel our organs. It's easy to verify. You have an organ which is not functioning well, you pay attention, you'll notice that you can feel the organ malfunction. You can also feel with the brain. You can, no question, brain is connected with the neurons, with the nerves to the organ. So certainly the brain is getting the information. Nobody is doubting that. But at the same time, you will have a feeling in the body. Now we have in our language built in some of the things that reflects that. For example, everybody, when they get really nervous or anxious, they will say, I have butterflies in my stomach. Right? So we feel that. We feel those anxiety. Or we say when somebody is dead in our vicinity or in our among our relatives, we say, my heart is heavy, because we feel that. And who doesn't know that when we have romance, people say, my heart is throbbing, right? Sometimes we address our partner as heartthrob. You are my heartthrob. You give me heartthrob. And that's the beauty of having a romantic partner. So we are familiar with some of these extreme cases where we do feel them. But then you forget that we can feel them all the time. Feelings are connected with the behavior of the organ. So let's make this very clear. Quantum physics is giving us this information. Do we have that? Could you show the picture on the chakras? Is it working? Ah. Continue. Continue. Yeah, this one. Okay. Feelings are connected with body organs. The organs in the body are organized in such a way that there are 7 centers of our major collection of organs in the body. This was discovered millennia ago in India and Tibet. Chakras, they're called, these centers. So this is a picture of the chakras, and I know all of you are interested in soul awakening. So get used to this idea of chakras. And Valentina will later on do some exercises to give you the experience of the chakras. There's too much for me to talk about, so I won't go into experiences so much, but you will, right? You have to really, really be familiar with this chakra in order to awaken the soul. Soul awakening is not a matter of rational thinking. You wake up in the morning and say, I will wake my soul. It doesn't work that way. Soul awakening is a matter of invoking the archetype through an experience that we call intuition. Okay, where does it come from? Materialists will stop you right there because, in their view, only matter exists, nothing else. And material communication to us all occurs through signals. This is called local communication. Signals come to us traveling through space, taking a little bit of time. They're called local signals, locality. However, this experience, the intuition, they come to us spontaneously. So materialist object, can that be? Nothing can come to us spontaneously at once. Things always take a little time to travel from something to something. And again, where is it coming from? So this fundamental difference between approaches doesn't help us today. We have to get to that approach, which gives us the idea of how intuitions come from, because that's where we get the archetypes. That's where we get goodness, love, and all this. They're extrasensory. They come at once. They don't come through our sense organs picking it up from material stimuli. Where do they come from? They come from a being that psychologists are now satisfied, at least many of them, a being they call unconscious. But really, spiritual traditions have identified this being long time ago. They're not part of popular religion language, but they're part of esoteric branch of popular religion. And this esotericism today is forgotten. How many of you even heard of esoteric aspect of Christianity? Anybody? Okay, you have heard that. That's very special. What is esotericism? Esotericism is the spiritual wisdom that was the basis of founding of religion. These esoteric aspects of religion is the same all over the world. There is no quarrel between Christians and Muslims, Muslims and Hindus, and Jews and Christians, nothing like that. Esoteric traditions of all religions agree. There are archetypes, there are attributes of God, which is a oneness of being. Everything is one in that being, one without a second. From that being, everything arises. When Jesus said, "My Father and I are one," he's referring to that being. Father is that being, and I is this being. I'm not separate from that being. This is the basic idea of esotericism. That there is a being, second level of existence beyond this space and time. And human beings basically arise from that being. Every aspect of creation basically arises from that being. And when we arise, all this separateness starts happening. That being itself manifests in us, in living beings, as a self. Self. What is the idea? I can refer to as myself. A human being can refer to as myself, I, me. These are reference to myself as opposed to you, yours. Okay? This capacity an inanimate object does not have. Every animate object, even a single cell, has this capacity of distinguishing between me and environment. However, as I said, in human beings, this capacity increases manifold. What is that difference? That difference is crucial to understand. Now, look at yourself. You can all identify I and me, right? What's the difference? This is where soul development begins. How to distinguish between I and me? Most people don't, you know. Why can't we? Because I can always look at my past. Okay, so a moment ago I was sitting on that chair. So who was sitting? Was that an I now? That in this perspective of this me sitting on this chair? No. When I look at I, it becomes me, an object. See the difference? Whereas I, the instantaneous experience that I have, that's the I. Problem is, the brain does not have the capacity of instantaneous experiences, spontaneous experiences, unless we try, and take a quantum leap, so to speak. I will explain quantum leap a little bit later. So we are stuck with this meanness. And this is where our primary difficulty of soul building, aside from what I have already had mentioned, we are basically very negative being, 5 times more negative than positive in terms of our brain. So there is that problem. And then there is this problem. Brain also, by its very nature, as it manifests consciousness, it makes the I into B. How does it do it? Because it develops all this memory circuit. Memory circuit that is essential for human function. You cannot say, okay, so it's brain's fault and I don't make memory. Spiritual masters sometimes mistakenly used to talk like that. Don't make memory. It's impossible not to make memory. If you have experience, you make memory. This is what quantum science is telling us. So that's not a solution. I won't make memory. Whether we want it or not, we make memory. If we want experience, we have memory. Would you like to sleep all the time? That's not possible, right? That's not being human either. So what's the solution then? The solution is that we have to learn that in spite of this memory making, in spite of this tendency of I becoming me, in spite of this fact that we cannot have spontaneous experiences because experiences come into brain, taking a little time, about half a second. Neuroscientists have measured it. In spite of all these problems, can I get into that I-ness? And how? This is what we need to learn. So, the basic thing about it is the brain. Brain is producing that delay. Stimulus comes, we can be aware of it in the moment, but usually we take 5 seconds to reflect the stimulus in the mirror of memory, and only after that, half a second, 500 milliseconds is what I meant, half a second, after that, we experience the stimulus and respond to it. And this is what produces the ego, this half a second timeline. The spontaneous response is available, but it requires a lot of creative work. The experience of that present center we call quantum self. In the olden days, we used to call it spirit. This is why this kind of thing that we are talking about is part of spirituality. Spirituality is about spirit, which is fundamentally, in Christianity, we call it sometimes Holy Spirit, because the spirit is a very special state. You can quantum leap into it, but it's the thing. In esotericism, there is a tendency of making the space very lofty, as if only a few people can have it. In Christianity, for example, popular Christianity, there is the belief that only Jesus can have it. No. Many other Christian saints, like St. Francis, Teresa of Avila, lots of them. And in other traditions, lots of them. They all had this experience. I had this experience, if I can be immodest for a second. Abraham Maslow called this peak experience, because many people around him, he was a creative person, creative people are having this experience. That's not special. My father and I are one is not a special state. It's available to all of us. This is the first thing to understand. Because then we can all build our soul. Yes, Jesus was a perfect soul, Buddha was a perfected soul, and all that is true. But we all can be perfected soul. This is the message of quantum physics. So we have changed spirituality in the process of scientizing. And today we can talk about soul building really in a very scientific step-by-step way. So, is it all very clear? I know I'm not giving details because time doesn't permit me. Forgive me for that, but is it all clear that there is a level of reality outside of space and time that we call unconscious? Then there is a level of reality that is space and time in which we normally exist and experience. And then is it very clear that when we experience a stimulus, we experience it first in a spontaneous state, and that state is called spirit, Holy Spirit, or quantum self. Half a second delay in the processing that brain goes through, we get what we call the ego. You know, neuroscientists recently, they always have debated with us, the people who have this theory of the brain. There was always have been a debate. Neuroscientists think that consciousness is just a circuit in the brain, a central processing unit, like a kind of thing that we have in our computer. You are all familiar with it. And that's where all the directions, decision making, etc., that come from. So according to this view, if a stimulus came from outside, it would first go to that consciousness circuit, the central processing unit, and then the central processing unit would tell the various organs of the brain, okay, you do this, you do that, right? That's how a computer works. So they studied this. neuroscientists. And they found that this is not the way. The stimulus comes, and then all these other brain organs are what activated first, and then we get the conscious experience. So indeed, consciousness is not a brain circuit. It is this picture. If we could experience spontaneously that quantum self, then of course the picture would be different. Is the picture different for people who have developed a soul level of existence? They studied people of heavy, large amount of meditative awareness, people who have meditated like 30,000, 40,000 hours during their life. And they found an amazing thing. Their brain is different. Their brain has changed. And their brain becomes activated all over the brain now when a stimulus comes. So we really can develop a state where the brain participates fully. And that's the quantum brain. That's the brain which is soulful. That's the brain where wholeness has been reached. That's the brain where conflicts have disappeared. Our motto is that the data is showing very clearly, yes, there is the brain for most of us where stimuli come and then we get a certain amount of processing, and then self-identity arises in a small portion of the brain in the neocortex. That's our regular ego existence. But then when we work to awaken our soul, when we go through the complete soul building, indeed, we have a completely different response to stimuli. Most of our brain become active some of the time, not all the time, of course. They were testing these people only when they are in an expanded mode of being. I'm sure if you measure the brain during the time they are going to the bathroom, they would not have similar traits in the brain. So ego never stops being. Ego level of being is always there, but the reason we say some people are soulful is because for those people, most of the time, they have an experience of expanded consciousness. More than one area of the brain are involved when we have an expanded consciousness. And I submit to you, not only the brain, other organs also enter. Okay, so this picture will go back a little later, but let's go back to the previous picture. What you showed first. You want to show initially the chakras with both kinds of emotion? Yeah. So, this is the key to soul building. We mentioned chakras. Quantum physics says that, okay, on the left we have this natural connection of emotions with the organs. It's very easy to connect because organ function, elimination organ, for example. Elimination organ, have you ever met a person who is constipated? Your person find that person is fearful, cannot take risks. Why? Because that person basically, the elimination organs are not working properly. Right? And when they're not working properly, the idea is that the movement of energy in connection with that organ that we feel as feeling, this energy is not physical energy. This energy is vital energy. This energy is quantum energy, quantum vital energy. These vital energies are blocked. So fear is, insecurity is, when the vital energy that keeps us secure, that is blocked. That energy is not coming to a constipated person. And this is why they cannot make decisions. They are always fearful, indecisive, and all that. Cranky, because they cannot make decisions. So, that's not a soulful being who is always afraid to investigate, to explore, to embody. We have to remove that, right? We have to unblock. What is the secret of unblocking? This is what we have to learn, and quantum physics is giving us this secret. Quantum physics says that there are two kinds of movements. In Newtonian physics, all movement is continuous. You go a little bit at a time. From here to there, I have to travel the whole distance. In quantum physics, it's not like that. Quantum physics says I can start here and then quantum leap over to you who is sitting there. How nice it is if we could do that. We cannot do that with our physical body, but we can do that with our mind. We certainly can also do that with these vital energies that we feel. So take an easy case. The easiest to understand, and of course the most important to understand, is what happens to the heart chakra. Now this is a very special situation. For millennia, women of our species are talking always about heart. I know this personally. I got married to a nice woman, my second marriage, at the age of 38. And I used to tell her in the initial stages, I used to tell her, I love you probably 20, 30, 50 times a day. And every time I would say, she would reprimand me. She said, you don't mean it. You're just saying it. Try to feel it. Try to feel it in your heart. And I would argue with her that there is no heart, there is no such thing as feeling, because I was a materialist then. And we would argue for a while, and then she gave up. But every time she still would shake her head when I say, I love you. Disapproval, I don't care what you're saying. So I kind of became desperate. I wanted her to be affirming my declarations, obviously. Every man wants his woman to hear it. And it took me 7 years, really, literally, 7 years to finally understand what is going on. And then I could say, I still remember the night. I was returning from a conference and she was waiting, very late at night, but she was waiting. And I came in and I said, I love you. And she heard me. And she did say this. Her face broke up in a smile, and it was a wonderful experience. So what happens? What happens when we feel? And how does the heart get involved in the feeling of love, which every woman knows, and mystics have been telling us, spiritual teachers have been telling us, St. Francis knew about love. Jesus knew about love in the heart. Buddha knew about love in the heart. Krishna knew about love in the heart. Why don't we know about love in the heart, especially men? And many women too. Today, many women live so much in their head that they don't acknowledge that heart also exists as a special place. And that place is reserved for only the soul. You cannot have ego in the heart. Heart is soulful. This is the beauty of the heart. Once it's awakened, you already have an entry to soul level of existence. That's special. So what's the secret? Let's look at it in some details, because this will really tell us what actually we have to do to build the soul. So, look at the picture. Look at the left. You will find that the heart chakra, the feeling is defensiveness. Well, the defensiveness is coming from the immune system. The heart is not involved in this normal activity of human beings. Heart is just a blood pump for ordinary existence of human beings. And this blood pump never stops. It stays. Even when we are loving beings, lot of activity goes on. But the activity which counts for the feeling that we have at the heart chakra is due to the immune system, thymus gland specifically. Job is to distinguish between me and not me. As soon as I see you, defensively. Okay, I already talked about vulnerability. So people who have altruism, 40%, they can be vulnerable. So, okay, I see you, but I don't have to be defensive. I can be little vulnerable. We're open. And then I see a particular you, if you are especially of the opposite sex, then I may become interested. That, okay, it would be nice to know you better. And then I drop the defensiveness completely. Is that love? No. It's still not love. This is where experimenters at a research institute called HeartMath Institute in California came in. I still remember the day when Valentina and I were looking at this data, and all of a sudden this idea sort of came to us. Not immediately. Remember, we have been collaborating on this idea for a while, writing the book Quantum Brain. And so it has been with us. But that day we understood the research that was being reported by the HeartMath Institute. Now, I've been talking about quantum physics, but I have not told you very much about quantum movement. Quantum movement has specific characteristics that distinguishes it from Newtonian movement. In Newtonian movement, it's very individualistic. You go this way, I go that way, everybody goes every which way, and that's the way. Like rock and roll dancing. That's the Newtonian dancing. Very popular, very easy, you don't have to learn it, just move your body any which way, and that's dancing. Wonderful. But in the olden days, even today, if people learn to do it, then they can dance very coherently with each other. Ballroom dancing, chorus line, beautiful depiction. Right? Everybody is moving coherently, the same way. This coherent movement is the characteristic of quantum movement. Newtonian movement cannot be coherent. But quantum movement is always coherent. So what this HeartMath Institute scientists discovered is that this heart for loving people becomes coherent in some aspects. What they are measuring was heart rate variability. Heart rate varies with time. If you measure the heart rate, it won't be the same moment to moment. This is called heart rate variability. Now, this heart rate variability, if you measure it here, if you measure it here, if you measure it here, all different parts of the heart, they won't necessarily be coherent with each other with their variability. But what these researchers found that if people are loving, then the heartbeat's variability becomes coherent, even coherent with some of the brain movements that are associated with it. An amazing thing. Heart becomes coherent. So Valentina and I immediately concluded it was like a quantum leap in ourselves, that this is a quantum leap of the heart, a discontinuous transition. How did you get that idea? Because Niels Bohr, long time ago, a quantum physicist, he pointed out that when electrons jump from one orbit to another, it does not go through the intervening space. It really goes through like from here to there at once, not the intervening space. This is called a quantum leap, discontinuity. So the heart becomes a quantum heart, literally. And what this quantum heart has is to open up the physiology of the heart to be more than a blood pump. It now can take care. It can care for another person. Look at how special this is. Here we were me-centered, continuously changing I to me. And then in order to get a sense of the I with the brain, we have to get our way into that domain of that half a second interval between ego and the quantum self. You have to meditate to reduce the reaction time of a stimulus before, we can experience it before the ego sets in that way, and we can get to the soul level. And here it is, how simple it is here. All we have to do is take a quantum leap at the heart. And then we are there. We love. I care for you means what? I care for you means that my consciousness is expanded to include you. My ego is no longer me. My consciousness is now more than me, which is what we call soul. So the heart is the easiest way to get to the awakening of the soul. We could do it with meditation. We could do it with meditation and then combining it with quantum leaps. But this is really the way to do it. Okay, I wanted to have some time for you to ask questions. So one more thing. So this kind of thing, this quantum self, soul, and ego level of being, this kind of thing is available to us for those of us who had this, belong to this 40% in whom altruism is quite active. They have positive emotional brain sectors. Look, we get ample chance in our childhood. We have interaction with our mother who loves us. We have interaction with our father, with our family. Then we have interaction with our friends. Then we have interaction with, if we are so lucky, loving teachers. And finally, we have interaction with that romantic partner. All these opportunities to learn love. So is heart awakened for most of us, for those of us at least who are of the 40% for whom altruism is already available in the brain? Yes. So be sure that yes, when you become adult, at about 18, 19, 20, then you are soulful. Don't doubt it. Not perfected soul, lots of conflicts still arise because all you have done is to romanticize, awaken the heart. But you still have other chakras and they are not perfected. So the soulfulness is just the beginning of soulfulness. But you have it. Problem is that when we become adult, we start taking responsibility, and the society has moved on to materialism. Today's society does not permit a soulful existence. We need to change the society. What the society does is to give you the idea that you have to take a job, and your job has nothing to do with the archetypes. Human professions were created because we wanted to explore the archetypes. That's how they were created. I don't have the time to give you all the correspondence of how every job, business people, for example, really explore the archetype of abundance. Politicians explore the archetype of power. It's all archetypal. But today, it becomes just a job. If we are still doing it with archetypal, then we readily realize that we have to combine these archetypes, basic archetypes, abundance and power, with soulfulness by also developing love and goodness. That's what would open them up. I would have learned to share my power. I would have learned to share my wealth. And this is what we are doing initially. But then with the development of rational mind, we forgot all that. This is the problem today. What we do is we give up the soulfulness that we develop in our childhood at teen years. We give up that. We sacrifice this at the altar of rationality and requirement of doing a job, earning a living, no longer exploring the archetype. So what's the remedy? Remedy is to bring back creativity in our life and start taking quantum leaps. Even though society is going this way, we, the 40%, can take on another way of living. And this is the reason that we travel so much. This is the reason we take this message. This is the message of quantum physics. Meaning and purpose is the way of life. Greg Braden, who is the spiritual teacher of some power, he was presenting, we just listened to him in a conference in Toronto just a few days ago. And he was saying there is no evidence that this message, you don't have to believe this evidence, but if it is right, it's fantastic. And it's not impossible. It's scientific. Some people have analyzed the DNA very careful ways. They presented all this data. And the message that is written in the DNA is amazing. It says, God eternal in the body. Now, of course, God eternal in the body does not obviously exist, because if that were true, then we all be good. But that's the purpose. It is the purpose of the human life that is written in the human DNA. God eternal in the body. This is what our job is. Our job as a human being is to bring that God eternal into the body. Embody it. Embody the archetype. Embody wholeness. So, let me open up for a few minutes of questions. We can have only 2 or 3 maybe. Please.
Dr. Goswami, this is the second time I see you.
Okay. Come over here, because
Yeah.
I cannot not serious. Good.
I was in a conference with you a few years ago with the Spiritist, and I had a chance to ask you a question. And I have two of your books, The Physics of the Soul and The Self-Aware Universe, and really enjoy them. I need to reread it. My question is, I truly believe in this, the quantum physics and all the new consciousness as the force that shapes material world, including us. And my question, how do we use quantum physics or quantum understanding, quantum consciousness in our daily lives to live fuller lives and to become better humans? How do we integrate that daily?
Okay.
That's my question.
Wonderful question.
Before you answer, does anybody need translation? I guess you guys got it. But you want to know, how do we do this in practice, in our daily day, right? Basically, how do we do all these beautiful things?
Okay, this is a beautiful
Eu
question.
continuo em inglês, né? Tudo bem, desculpa. Como é que a gente faz isso no dia a dia? A mente já tá meio doida. Como é que a gente faz isso no dia a dia, na prática?
How do we live our life in a soulful way? So, the question is, what is the soulful way? We already decided that if we can live with the expansion of consciousness, then soul is awakened, right? I have to include you. This is the soulful way. It's not something miraculous. It is not something fantastic that only a few people can do. Anybody who can love. This is why in the Bible there is a saying, whoso knoweth love knoweth God. It's simple. It's not difficult. But it does take a quantum leap. Okay? But how to live it in a regular life, since we have all these problems? So how do we live a regular life? We live with ourselves. We live with a job, 8 hours. And then we come back home. We live with family, intimate relation, children, etc. This is the 3 areas. Everybody, no exception. Well, yeah, exceptions. I mean, some people, of course, don't have family, etc., etc. But this is the more or less average human being. So the soulful way of living is to keep consciousness expanded in all three areas of human activity. How do I do it with myself? This is called meditation. We should live a meditative life. What's the difference? Meditative life is a life of awareness. What happens to us, you will notice that when we live, brain is constantly throwing us thoughts. And our habit is we identify with those thoughts. But you know, it's just brain throwing, unless we actively think. Like I'm giving a lecture, I'm actively thinking. But you are listening. You're not actively thinking. My words goes to the brain and brain throws a response. So you have thoughts and then you have a choice. You can identify with that thought or we can just be neutral about the thought. Yes, the thought is coming from your memory, so it's yours in some sense. But is it yours? It's your me, certainly, but not your I. Your I does not have to acknowledge as his thought, her thought, that particular idea that the brain is throwing from the memory. So this is the secret of meditation. We gradually disidentify with the Newtonian brain. We become free. If we live this way, consciousness always remains expanded if we begin with some exercises that expand consciousness. This is why in traditional societies people begin with their life, with their day with a prayer, because it expands consciousness. With a mantra that expands consciousness. With music that expands consciousness. We look at beautiful art that expands consciousness. But the best thing, you know what? You begin the day with hugging your intimate relation. That always will expand consciousness, guaranteed. Hug with awareness. This is why I like to, we both like the Brazilian culture so much. Hug, hug, hug. We call it Brazilian hug. Everybody hugs together, the whole room. So this is the way, this is the secret of the morning. Then you go to work, what to do there. Don't look at your job as a job. Look at any job as a profession. Archetype. Bring the archetype in your life while you do your job. Every job has an associated archetype, discover it, and then explore that archetype while you are on the job. Don't worry, your job will only get better. Your professional competence will only get better. Archetypes bring satisfaction, and that means expanded consciousness. And of course, when you come home, be sure to have relationships which are a two-way relationship. Now, let's show a picture of that tango parrot in the brain. See how the brain works? This is the quantum explanation of how consciousness identifies with the brain. There are two apparatuses in the brain, memory and perception. When memory and perception create each other, like Escher's picture of drawing hand, left hand draws the right and right hand draws the left, that's when we become self-conscious. Can we make our relationship this way? As you create me and I create you while we relate? Then it is mutual creation of the soul, soulful living that we both want to do. So this is the simple recipe of living a quantum life, soulful life. Thank you. That's a great question. So we probably don't have any more time.
Yeah, we have, let's see, one more. Who else before, after him? Anybody else? Can you take like one more? Him and one more? So I'll finish with you.
Dr. Amit, first of all, it's a great pleasure to have you here. And somehow you remind me of Mahatma Gandhi embracing all the religions and talking about Christianity. It's a pleasure to have you here. My question, actually, I have a comment first and then a question. My first comment, and it has to do with your comment about when you say something to someone and you put like meaning into those words. When you say, you can come here to this room and say good morning and not meaning anything. And you come here and say, look into people's eyes and say, good morning. Or when you say, I love you, is this connection between your brain and your heart. And it also has an effect into your cells, because as we know, our body is like almost 78% of water. So how your body changes when you put like meaning into those words. I think it was a very, very important point that you brought to this lecture. My question is about quantum physics. When a person goes into a coma for a long time, that person wakes up speaking different languages. Does it have to do with spirituality? But I want to know what quantum physics, how do you say about that? How does it apply into that memory, consciousness?
Well, when people go into coma, is that what you were asking? Comatose states are very, very interesting because here consciousness more or less has withdrawn. But consciousness withdrawn means in quantum terms that the consciousness has become unconscious, basically. Consciousness has not totally withdrawn. This is why we keep them alive. It's a good idea to keep at least as much as practicable, keep them alive. Of course, we have to use some reasonableness here. If there is pain in the body is already gone, then of course many people write their will that please don't keep me alive. So that's a different thing. But a healthy person gets an accident and goes into a coma, it's very good practice to keep person alive. Why? Because person is in the unconscious. Now it is true that unconscious has all kinds of suppressed emotions, like Freud said, subconscious we call it. But it is also true, as Carl Jung discovered, that we have a collective unconscious, which does not work on local principles. It's not local memories of our brain that involve in the unconscious processing. Instead, it's collective memory that our ancestors created, which contains all these positive emotions of altruism, love, and some very great romance, motherly love, all that. And then beyond that, quantum physics says that there is also those possibilities that has never been manifested by any person. Those never before manifested part of unconscious. We call it quantum unconscious. So the comatose patient, if the patient is alive and already soulful, he is not going to get stuck with the personal unconscious all the time. He certainly will be unconscious in the collective, even in the quantum unconscious of the patient. And the collective, all these past incarnations are active. And in the past incarnations, they may very well have another language experience, etc. So in this way, the experiences would transcend languages, the usual things that we identify a person with. Because in the unconscious, we are interacting with all our previous incarnations. That is one with us. I'm glad you are probably a spiritist, because you will subscribe to this view. The point of view is supporting it, that we have, beside our personal memory in the brain, we also have a collective personal memory. Memory, but collective. Collective not with all of humanity, but collective with all my previous incarnations. So all those memories, I am now one with them. And therefore all that is active in me. And this is why it is possible that we can communicate with them maybe not with this regular language, but with another language. Thank you. That's a great question. One mantra to end.
Yeah, one more. Yeah,
Well, one last mantra.
last
please.
one, and then it's gonna be quick. And then, so just a little, so you guys know the sequence, okay? So after that question, we're gonna have Dr. Valentina speaking for us. We know we're running a little late because we started a little late. Usually we have by this time the activities finished, but if you can stay, I think it's great. If you need to leave, we will understand. So we're gonna do this. She's gonna speak for us like 15, 20 minutes. And then he's gonna finish for us, and then we're gonna just do like the one general collective pass, and then we finish the activities. So I appreciate your patience, and if you need to go, we understand. But if you can stay a little bit more, I mean, we can stay here the whole afternoon. We understand. We need to go, and they need to go. So one more question, and we're gonna go to Dr. Valentina. Okay.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Goswani, right here. Really good talk. So I just wanted to ask you a question, echoing on what you just talked about. So there's the physical family with the DNA passing down generations, and you kind of mentioned the spiritual family in the sense of like the different avatars that you might go through. So I just want to hear your thoughts a little more on that duality between the physical reality and the spiritual reality, and that connection, the double-sided families. So
I didn't understand the question. You have family, and then
you just mentioned, how like there's this, you can reincarnate, like use the previous reincarnations of your avatar to access those memories. But at the same time, there's the physical families with the DNA and passing down the generations. So I just want to hear about your view of that duality between the spiritual family and like physical family.
okay. So physical family, the connection is genetic. So we get genes from the ancestors. But of course, genes are not everything. The new science is saying that people are genes and then software. The software is where the spiritual family comes in. The software consists of previous incarnations that I had. Software consists also of my surroundings, my families that I relate with. They are the ones with whose help I generate my software. Like if I learn to love, it used to be loving software. Learn to be fair, give me fair software. So in this way, the software is what we miss when we just consider the genetic heredity. How is the software continue from one life to another? Through reincarnation. So the discovery of reincarnation, both in theory and in practice, now has helped us to recognize what really is taking place. This is why in Brazil, especially, family constellation therapy is so successful, because they take into account of this idea that there are previous reincarnations that also affect the person, and we can work on that basis. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. Before we're going to pass the word to Dr. Valentina, I'd like for you, Dr. Amit, to finish with some words for us. And we appreciate and we're very thankful for your presence here. So let's keep the thoughts and the energy, these final words of Dr. Amit.
Oh,
you want to say a few things before? Yes, before, yeah.
All right. So this is just a mantra for invoking again to inspire us to that study of the archetype, embodying the archetype. If you can, recite with me. Asatoma Satkamaya. Asatoma Satkamaya. Asatoma Satkamaya. Take me from the unreal to the real. Asatoma Satkamaya. Tamosoma Jyotirgamaya. Take me from darkness into light. Mristurma Amritam Gamaya. take me from death to immortality. When we build the soul, then what happens is that we become immortal in the sense that all that soul goes with us to the future incarnation. The soul is forever living. The ego dies. Memory of the brain, that passes away. That history is not permanent. Whatever we build with the ego does not go with us. That's not me. That's not a characteristic that I carry from incarnation to incarnation. I, the being, the soulful being, is really made of the soul characteristics that I'm building. And this is why we become immortal as we start building the soul. Okay. Again, recite with me if you can. Mriturma amritam gamaya. Amritam gamaya. From death to immortality. That's what goal of awakening the soul. Thank you.
Thank you. You can stay. She has a microphone. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Don't worry, I'm not going to keep you a lot, yeah, because then we go back to Amit a bit. So it will be a short meditation of awareness and then of evoking the divine grace. Okay, simply that's what I'll do now. Because the subject, of course, it's a huge subject. And what we say in quantum science, soul, we refer to the supramental level of our being. And actually, those aha moments. But again, there are many levels. Go deep, of course. And for example, now that you heard all these wonderful informations that came with meaning, the idea is not to keep them piled in the head, just like we keep some books in the library. The more we do that, we just go into piling information. That's not going to help. So whatever is not helping, we have to learn kind of to let go. And when you allow such information to also touch your heart, that's a different story. So let's begin with this short meditation of awareness. So keep your back straight. And simply maintain a position with the feet on the floor without fidgeting. Take a deep breath. And also make sure that you relax the abdomen area, you relax the shoulder, the neck, the jaw. Kind of try to relax the whole body from down upwards. In the same time, simply maintain the attention on the breath. When we pay attention to the breath, we also connect with the physical body and also with the present moment. And that is one of the moments when we can tap into a supramental experience, when you fully enjoy what you're doing with heart and mind. So relax simply from down upwards, physical body, letting go any other preoccupations, simply connecting with your breath and with the joy of being here and now, together with all these other wonderful people that I think you know each other and you are united with the same purpose, which is a fact that can trigger a supramental experience or a connection with your heart, because we bring up that oneness and we can tap into this space of non-locality, which is a gate towards our soul. And the biggest gate for that is, of course, connection with our hearts. So as we maintain the body still, maintain the attention on the breath, and try to also scan the physical body, try to perceive if there are contractions in various areas or if there's expansion in certain areas. Try to allow all this that was passed through Amit so far to touch your heart, because it was given from the heart. Simply maintain the attention on the breath and also more and more relax the space of the heart, the chest area. As you breathe in and out, to become aware that as this breathing in and out is connecting us with the divine flow of life. You can also play slowly the music I gave you in the background. We continue maintaining the attention on the breath. You can play the music slowly, if you can, if not, no. As you breathe in, try to perceive the resonance with the flow of life, with creativity, with everything that means that has purpose for you. And again, lowering your centering from the head into your heart. As you breathe out, let go as much as possible any kind of inertia, tiredness, conditioning. Simply allow yourself to connect with your hearts stronger and stronger. You can also place your palms on your chest if you want. If not, simply go deeper into your hearts, as if you're breathing in and out through your heart. And now we can say in our hearts this prayer: God, Heavenly Father, have mercy on me. You can do it 7 times from your heart. We continue breathing in and out slowly. Breathing deep, slowly, softly, conscious. And each conscious breathing leads you more and more towards your inside, towards your heart. In the Hindu tradition, we refer to Mahashakti as a manifestation of the divine grace. In the Christian tradition, we have the Holy Spirit, the same meaning. And we refer to this divine flux of universal life as the mysterious breath of Mahashakti. Mahashakti, or the Holy Spirit, or the Divine Mother, who gave birth and supports permanently with love the entire creation. We continue to breathe consciously and feel how with each breath we fill ourselves with the light and grace of the Holy Spirit. Or Mahashakti, the Divine Mother who supports and loves all the time the entire manifestation. And especially we feel how our hearts are filling with love for the Holy Spirit of Mahashakti, the great Divine Mother. As we breathe in and out, we welcome her entirely in our being, feeling how she impregnates us with all the divine attributes, all the divine qualities or virtues that make us blossom and transform deeply as we surrender to her with all our being. I feel how we dissolve in endlessness as we enter more and more in communion with the Holy Spirit and Mahashakti. We can again simply pay attention in a relaxed way in our hearts and above the head, the level of Anahata Chakra and Sahasrara. As we surrender to this communion with the Holy Spirit in a state of prayer, purity, and as we deepen this communion more and more. Music louder. We continue. In this state of inspiration, lower the music. In this state of inspiration and expansion of consciousness, we can now set up a clear intent towards awakening of our souls from all our heart, with all our willpower and aspiration towards healing, towards transformation, towards living a life of purpose. We set up very clearly, firmly, the intent to awaken our hearts. And we expand this intent for the entire community that we have here, eventually for the entire humanity. The same intent to live a life with meaning and purpose, with the hearts awakened. And the third step of the intent is to surrender this intent to God, or to the movement of consciousness, knowing that this will happen in the most appropriate way and time. And take a deep breath and come back slowly to the awareness of the body, to the here and now. And we manifest gratitude to God and to the Holy Spirit, or Mahashakti. That was the short meditation we wanted to do with you. Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm going to give you some. Finish with her. Yeah. So I'm going to give some. I have some information here to pass to you guys. I'm going to stand here before we finish here with the prayer. Some of the. We still have some lunch available. We had prepared some lunch today, and there's a contribution that helps to support the house. So if you have not had lunch yet, if you want to take home with you, we still have a few box there, so you can help with the house and also feed the body. We have many activities in the house, as you guys know. I'm not going to be this so extensive, Okay, português. Okay, yeah. So I'm not gonna make this so long. So we have many activities in the house. If you're interested to know more, you can step at the library. You can get more information about the house. Yeah, we finish here. But one more thing. Eu queria pedir para quem tem o aparelho de tradução, por favor, antes de sair, colocar na mesa, devolver ali na salinha de passe. A gente vai fazer o passe coletivo. Eu queria pedir, I'd like to ask for the people that can help with the passes to stay. The workers from the house, if you can stay and position yourselves for the final passes. You can guys keep seated. You can return the equipment later. Let's just finish. Can you please turn the light a little down, please? So I'd like to invite all the workers to stay around so you can finish with these passes. For this energy, we're going to be transmitting with the people that workers here. And Valentina, you make the final prayer. He makes the final prayer. She can make us the final prayer. And we're gonna, yeah.
So one thing we forgot to tell you, if you want to be in touch with us, you can look Amit's website and write an email, info@amitgoswami.org. We have courses of, intensive courses, master PhD certifications, English and Portuguese. And we are here. It's a great privilege to be with you because you're very developed. You're in all these ways, mental and emotional and spiritual as well. So if you want to be in touch, you can write us because some people asked me already. Yeah. So, okay, that's the contact. And Amit will end with the ending prayer.
All right. So this is just a what is called Shanti mantra, a mantra for peace on earth, peace on everybody, for health, for awakening. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Let everybody be happy. Sarve santu niramayaha. Let everybody be without illness. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Let everybody see that soul awakening is the objective of human life. Ma kaschid dukhabhag bhavet. That no one suffer the unhappiness of separateness. Om. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for being here. Have a great week. And português? Ok. Eu só queria agradecer então a todos pela presença, que essa energia possa acompanhar a todos durante essa semana, que vocês possam ter internalizar tudo isso que nós passamos aqui juntos hoje, que a gente possa sair daqui em paz e, consequentemente, dividir com todos que nós encontrarmos. Eu tenho as crianças aqui, vocês querem fazer alguma coisa pra gente? Não, eu só veio para... we have the children here, so they came to receive all the energy. See all these beautiful kids here? Yeah, they were there. Well, the parents were here. They were having classes there. So these are the beautiful kids we have. Thank you for coming again. Obrigada pela atenção de vocês. Um bom dia. A gente está para encerrar, então, os trabalhos da manhã de hoje.